The movie starts with a guy named Teddy. He was a prisoner in the Auschwitz camp. He stands in the camp yard with his eyes closed as he reminisces about the old days when he was a boxing champion in Warsaw, Poland. One day, when he finished his training, he was returning home. German soldiers arrested him and brought him to the camp, where he worked with many men. They were breaking stones all day and were treated badly. Where they barely eat soup, more like water than enough to keep them alive while working long hours in the hills. Among the prisoners was a 15-year-old boy named Yannick. Many prisoners were taking advantage of him and forcibly taking his food. Later, while one of the prisoners was talking about escaping from that camp, one of the guards heard him hit his head, and that person died instantly. The next day, Yannick was talking to Teddy. He told him that he admired him and used to watch boxing matches all the time. The next day, Teddy goes to a German officer's house to do some work. On his way back, he brings some apples to Yannick, who gives them to an old man, and Teddy realizes that Yannick is a good guy, so he offers him another apple. Meanwhile, German officers come and learn that Teddy stole the apple. They wanted to punish him when they saw that Yannick and the old man were carrying apples. They took them too. They got to a place where 3 people were killed, and they asked the old man and Yannick and Teddy to stand in line. The old man was at the front of the line, and they ordered him to put the apple on his head. One of the soldiers tries to shoot the apple, but he kills the old man. It's Teddy's turn, and the officer orders him to put an apple on his head, but he doesn't care and starts eating it with confidence. The officer is shocked by his behavior, and Yannick tells them that he is not afraid of anyone. The officers take Yannick and start beating him. Teddy gets upset, but has no choice but to bear to see him get hurt. In the evening, they send a large number of Jews into a room filled with poison gas. They used these rooms to kill them, and then sent the rest of the prisoners to work before sunrise without giving them food and treating them in the worst way. That day, while they were working, a German officer was eating while watching over them. He throws a piece of food on the ground, and 2 prisoners run to get it and fight over it. The officer encourages them to continue fighting, then orders Teddy to be brought in. As we know that Teddy was a boxer before he came, he defeats the man and all who come after him. Although he hasn't trained for a long time, he is so good, it makes sense to call him a hero. Another German officer had some information about boxing. He comes to him and asks him to compete with him. Teddy immediately agrees. The officer is surprised by Teddy's skills and feels satisfied that he has met someone who knows boxing. He was very skilled, so he was given food as a reward for winning all the matches. Teddy returns to camp and shares the food to everyone, including Yannick. Later, due to the cold and lack of heating and clothing, Yannick gets sick. And because they did not provide him with any treatment or medicine, the disease increases and develops into pneumonia. He became ill with a fever. Teddy couldn't bear to see Yannick suffer, so he asked the officer to provide him with some food and medicine. But the officer told him there was a chance to get all of that, and he had to do what he said. Teddy immediately agrees. The officer takes Teddy to meet his superiors, where they have been looking for a way to entertain for a long time. He tells them that boxing is the best way of entertainment, and he shows them Teddy and tells them that he is a good boxer. But the officers do not believe him and laugh at the fact that a weak person like Teddy is able to participate in matches. But he convinces them, and they start preparing for the match that Teddy will play. The next day, he wins with ease. German officers with a small child were attending the match. After he wins, Teddy gets some food, and then they send him to a working horse stable, where the work was less effortless. so he can take a rest and do boxing training. In addition, they gave him wrestling gloves. He was also given permission to go to the hospital to get some care. At the hospital, he asks the doctor who is stitching his wound to give him some medicine for Yannick's pneumonia. The doctor was very kind and agreed to give him medicine. In addition, she gives him a set of pills that help him recover from the diseases that most people in the camp suffer from. He takes the medicine and goes to the place where the patients are held, and he gives it to Yannick. Later, Yannick appears healthy and eating. Teddy helps him as he is assigned to the hospital for work, and there he meets a girl his age. People were suffering in the camp, and hundreds of them were dying by entering the poison gas chambers. While by this time Teddy was getting fit and strong and outdoing every competitor, the officers got tired of seeing him win every time. At the same time, he was getting extra medicine and food for the prisoners in the camp. One day, the father of a little boy comes to a horse stable for a horse. But he meets Teddy and he tells him he's put on some weight. He also tells him that he should enjoy the food in order to give them special offers, but once they get tired of watching him fight, he will have to go back to suffering again. The next day, they bring a man from another prison to take part in the fight against Teddy, and he seemed much stronger than him. People expected that this new man would be able to beat him, but he beats him easily. They give him plenty of food after the game, and he shares it with his fellow prisoners. Soon after, the child falls down the stairs, and he is diagnosed with typhoid, so the German officer fears that his son will die of the disease, but he does. The officer feels a great sadness that he had not felt before when the Jews, including the children, were killed. Teddy sees German soldiers removing the dead, including the man he defeated. Later, a number of children are shown eating. Among them was a girl who is Yannick's friend. We see them love each other. On the other hand, German soldiers ask people to enter the poison gas chamber after they took off their clothes, where they convince them that they send them to bathe and then they will give them food and also bring Yannick's friend, because they saw her stealing some food. But when she refuses to undress, the officer points a gun at her. Luckily, with someone's help, she manages to take the gun away from him, and then she shoots him. The other officer sees this and shoots her so she dies. They also shot all the other Jews who were waiting to enter the room. In the midst of the gunfire, one of the officers notices that he has been shot. Yannick runs to a crying Teddy and hugs him, while the officer goes to the hospital and sees Yannick working there, so he takes him for his harm. The next day, Teddy watches a German officer. He was also a boxing champion who wanted to compete with him. Teddy asked them to bring Yannick back after he wins the match. The officer tells him that he has to go through several matches before he reaches the German boxer, who was a well-known figure in the army. The match begins and Teddy is in control as usual. Germans feel bad that someone fails in front of a prisoner. They cheat and make Teddy drink some drinks, after which he gets dizzy. He starts receiving punches from the officer, but despite that he did not lose his courage and continued the fight. But the officers stopped the fight and told him that the German officer had won. But Teddy did not accept that, so they brought him Yannick and asked him to fight against him, but he refused. They threatened to shoot him if he doesn't start fighting. He insists on refusing, so they kill Yannick and tie Teddy to a pole for the night. The next day he goes to work while his hands hurt. Trembling, he reaches the place where the Jews are being killed and finds a toy that Yannick had made while working near the woods, and he carried it with him all the time. The game gives him some hope to get up and go back to the camp, where he fights German officers with another prisoner. He gets hit hard while not with his usual strength, because his hands hurt because he was tied up the day before. At night, people start betting on him as he entered the ring and started fighting against the German officer. He takes a few punches, but he doesn't give up. The crowd was cheering for him, so he punched the officer. And the audience is delighted to see one of them defeat a German officer. Later, they let him out of the camp, while the rest of the prisoners called him a hero. He was always nice to them, and he showed others how to stand up for himself. After the end of the war, he returns home to Warsaw, Poland, and pursues his boxing dreams. He is living a happy life now, but he did not forget the horror he saw and suffered while in a German concentration camp, nor did he forget Yannick. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more, hit the like button to support us, and leave a comment if you'd like us to review your favorite movie. Until the next time, take care.